It's Thursday, September 16th, and this is now on HNN.
I just want my baby back. All I want is my baby back.
The intense search for a missing 6-year-old girl enters its 4th day with no signs of the child.
There's been a big drop in visitor arrivals. Howard Dykes explains what's happening.
I guess the simple answer is most of what we're seeing is worse than usual.
We've reached the tipping point on the need for climate action.
A desperate call for action on climate change. I'm Ian Lee with why the United Nations says countries need to make good on their promises.
I don't think it's actually fully sunken in yet.
Plus, Hawaii's Carissa Moore reflects on being a 5-time world champ. These stories and more coming up on This Is Now.
Good afternoon. Thank you for watching This Is Now. We begin with an increasingly desperate search for a missing 6-year-old.
Efforts to find Isabella Ariel Kalua have now entered its 4th day, and there's still no sign of the child. Sammy Solina is live in Kailua with the latest. Sammy.
Hey, good afternoon. So we are at Kailua Beach Park, and the concentration today for volunteers is Kailua. They did meet at Waimanalo District Park, and they had their usual huddle. There was still a pretty good group of volunteers. There are a little bit less folks coming out for searching now that it's day 4. And during that huddle, you know, the family, they've admitted that they don't know a whole lot. There hasn't been a whole lot of evidence or clues or anything like that that has come from these searches as far as they're aware, and they've admitted that, you know, they're growing more tired. Volunteers here, they're growing more tired, but they're still holding on to hope that they're going to find some kind of sign of Isabella Ariel Kalua. Today, volunteers at the district, or at the beach park here, I should say, they were handing out flyers, just trying to talk to anyone about if they've seen anything and to please keep your eyes out. And they were just doing, you know, searching any little parts of this area that they can, looking in trash cans to see if they can find anything, storm drains. And that's what volunteers are doing all over the island. We know that there are groups just keeping an eye out and taking walks, going down trails all throughout the island. But today, the concentration is in here in Kailua, and that's what we know so far. And we, of course, will check in with the family to see if anything has turned up during this search. But for now, Jonathan, Ashley, will take it back to you.
Honolulu police have not talked on camera to answer questions from the media for days now. But yesterday, Sammy did speak to Isabella Ariel Kalua's biological mother, Melanie Joseph. Here's a portion of that interview.
I'm just thankful for everybody's support being out here. I'm thankful that everybody's here to help. And I just want whoever has it to bring my baby back home.
What's going through your mind right now?
I just want my baby back. All I want is my baby back. Just bring her back home. And if anybody knows who she is, please bring her back.
Meanwhile, sources confirmed to Hawaii News Now that Isabella was pulled out of her public school earlier this year in order to be homeschooled. As you can see, there's still a lot of unanswered questions. We have a team of reporters working all angles on this story. Stay with Hawaii News Now for continuing coverage. We'll have another live report coming up at 4, and if any new details come in, we'll post them to your HNN digital platforms.
Now to the pandemic. The state health department is reporting 588 new COVID cases today, along with 8 more deaths. DOH says the latest COVID fatalities are a Big Island woman in her 80s and 3 women and 4 men on Oahu, ranging in age from their 30s to their 80s. The breakdown of COVID infections by island shows 388 cases on Oahu, 96 on the Big Island, 53 on Maui, 38 on Kauai, 4 residents diagnosed on Molokai, and 9 out of state.
Let's talk tourism now. Bringing in Howard Dykes. Boy, oh boy, Howard, since the 4th of July peak, we sure are seeing a downturn in those visitor arrivals, right?
Yeah, the word precipitous comes to mind. In early July, we were getting more than 30,000 arrivals a day. By a month ago, it was 20,000 if we were lucky, and now we're down to like 14, 15,000 arrivals a day. And that includes a lot of people that are not visitors, like flight crews. So it's down 27% this month from 2019, the last normal year we had.
So you also got some new indicators today regarding business travel, right?
Yeah, there's a national report from the hotel trade group that says there's been a loss of billions of dollars in revenue on the business side. And that's not surprising on the mainland, but what did surprise me is that we've lost $1 billion in business travel revenue just in Hawaii. We think of Hawaii correctly as being mostly leisure travel, but we get normally enough business travel that the decline is pretty bad. And that's part of the really serious loss of revenue that the hotels are suffering.
Back to the visitor arrivals, how much of this is September slump that we would naturally see with tourism, and how much of it is fear about COVID?
Well, we usually see a decline now, but serious shoulder season is just beginning now in a normal year, and instead we're seeing something that's far worse than that. So I guess the simple answer is most of what we're seeing is worse than usual.
All right, Howard Dykes, let's toss it back over to Ashley with more news.
Now to the H&N investigative story we first told you about here on This Is Now. A Honolulu police commander is under fire after another temporary promotion, despite having a history of complaints and lawsuits. Now members of the rank and file are pushing back, speaking out to Arlene Kuano.
It's rare for one Honolulu police officer to speak publicly against command staff. But in this case, 4 current officers, a retired police lieutenant, and the widow of another officer have all come forward because of an acting assistant chief with a history of complaints who keeps getting promoted.
He's a terror. Everywhere he goes, a wrath of terror follows him.
For me, he's nothing more than a bully.
Tyrant. Dictator.
Toxic work environment.
4 veteran officers have filed city and federal complaints with the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission because of this man, Stephen Girona. As an acting assistant chief, he's one of the highest-ranking officers in the department.
For your consideration for this resolution.
This is Girona representing HPD at last week's council meeting.
I am totally in a corner, and I'm still in a corner. I'm leave without pay because my employer isn't providing me a safe workplace.
Detective Maile Rego has a pending lawsuit against the Honolulu Police Department. Rego is assigned to the Criminal Investigations Division, specifically the Child Abuse Unit.
Tonight, the search for Kitana Angkog.
Critics say HPD wasted an opportunity in a case that led to a murder charge.
Toddler Kitana Angkog was reported missing on February 10th. Detective Rego was not assigned the case, but given her training on crimes against children at both the state and federal levels, she started looking into it. The baby had been dropped off with her father, Travis Rodriguez, a convicted felon with a violent past. Rego wanted a Maile Amber Alert issued and wanted more assistance from the FBI because of its vast resources and technology. But she says CID's command staff under Girona refused.
It's my professional opinion that we failed. There should have been an Amber Alert. When you can't find a vulnerable 18-month-old, somewhere common sense needs to kick in and say, all hands on deck. Treat it as if this was your daughter. And that didn't happen.
Instead, her commander said they would launch an investigation into her for unauthorized computer access because she started helping on the case when it wasn't assigned to her. Rego's supervisor, Lieutenant Mark Matsusaka, stood up for her.
She's extraordinarily passionate about her work, to the point where I have to pull her back sometimes because she just wants to leap forward and her heart is in the right place. And to see the department do what they're doing, I couldn't not support her.
He says that brought retaliation against him.
After I began to speak on behalf of Detective Rego, things dramatically changed, and it was very, very fast. Suddenly, I, in the command's eyes, could not do anything right.
His EEOC complaint names Jerona as the person behind those actions. Jerona has only been head of the Criminal Investigations Division since the beginning of this year. In the first 6 months under his leadership, the department confirms 29 detectives requested to transfer out of CID, while only 6 requested in. CID investigates homicides, sex crimes, missing persons, child abuse, and robbery.
With the amount of personnel that are trying to leave currently, there's no possibility that we're going to catch up or gain that experience in time. And I do believe it's already showing in the effects of the crime rate that's spiking and our inability to clear cases.
Jerona ended up in CID after multiple complaints were made at his previous assignment as a major at District 3, the Pearl City substation.
He created a hostile work environment.
This District 3 patrol officer, who didn't want her name used or face shown, says she was exposed to COVID-19 on the job last year.
Notified my supervisors, notified the city doctor, was told I have to get tested. I was forced to stay home and wait for the results.
The department provided administrative leave for that, but Jerona wanted her to use her own time. Her lieutenant came to her defense.
He got really upset, saying that she's just trying to manipulate the system. She's trying to get paid for not being at work, when all she did was do her job. And I know that because he didn't like her, he was trying to cause trouble.
The lieutenant says he then also suffered retaliation and harassment.
That's when his anger turned to me. He ended up moving me to an admin lieutenant's position, which is a less desirable position.
It's a target. You have a target on your forehead. You are done.
Retired Lieutenant Deanne Koanui won a $500,000 settlement from the city in 2019. She said Jerona went after her when she declined to pass unqualified recruits at the police academy in his efforts to fill vacancies.
To me, if they didn't pass the exam, the 30 push-ups or the 30 sit-ups, whatever was required, I wouldn't pass them, and they wanted me to.
Koanui says taxpayers will pay the price for Jerona's behavior and because the department's leadership protects him.
He was involved in another lawsuit, so I was his second lawsuit. At what point, that lawsuit settled for $1 million. Mine was $500,000. At what point do the taxpayers have to stop paying for his infractions, for his bullying tactics?
It's been really rough. I get up every day. The only reason why I get up every day is because we have a daughter who's a year old.
This is the widow of a Honolulu police sergeant. The sergeant had nearly 20 years on the force. His widow says Jerona denied him special duty jobs on his days off when their daughter was born last year. And this year, Jerona lumped him into a broad investigation for COVID enforcement overtime abuse because he was part of a team of about a dozen officers. His wife says that investigation made her husband fear he wouldn't be able to provide for the family.
I kept trying to tell him or convince him that we'll be okay, even if he lost this job. And I kept telling him, you know what, you only got 5 more years. Just hang in there.
On May 1st, he committed suicide. His heartbroken wife believes he did it to ensure his pension and benefits would go to her and their daughter. All those who made official complaints or filed lawsuits against Jerona say they had no other choice. They were ignored by higher-ups, including former Chief Susan Ballard. She and Jerona were recruit classmates, apparently very protective of one another. Now that Ballard is gone, the officers want to know why he remains in a position of power and continues to be promoted, most recently to acting assistant chief. We reached out to Stephen Girona through the Honolulu Police Department, offering both a chance to explain why he remains in that position of power despite all the allegations and the lawsuit. HPD said they are cooperating with those investigations, but cannot comment further due to the confidential nature of the complaints. I'm Lynn Kawano, Hawaii News Now.
All right, thank you, Lynn, for that special report. We have a complete write-up of that story on your H&N digital platforms. Want to take you outside live right now. This is a live video feed coming into the H&N Digital Center right now. Look at that, a little bounce around on that camera because those winds are picking up. Here's Guy Hoggy with an update on your weather.
Now, the trade winds will be filling in today to about 10 to 20. They'll get stronger over the next couple of days, and that means lower humidity levels, and we will not see those afternoon clouds and those afternoon showers. So we are expecting a pretty nice day today. Granted, there's some high clouds out there that might make for a beautiful sunset tonight, and the sunset a little bit later, coming down at about 6:32. Remember, we're less than a week. There's less than a week left of summer. Now, as far as the surface, it's going to be smaller today than yesterday. Still some fun-sized waves rolling into the south shore. So trade winds filling in today. A few more clouds and showers for windward areas expected tomorrow, and drier conditions heading in for the weekend. Keep it here on Hawaii News Now. We'll have all your severe weather updates.
New at noon, Governor Ige on hand for a groundbreaking ceremony downtown. This is for a new $88 million, 20-story senior living affordable apartment community. Here's a portion of what he had to say.
Kokua Senior Living Affordable Housing Project. We've made affordable housing and housing in general a priority of this administration. And we completed our first goal of 10,000 new units by 2020. And really, this is just icing on the cake. We're committed to completing 3,000 more housing units before the end of the term.
When it's completed, there'll be more than 200 residential studio apartments at this new building on Alakea Street.
COVID lockdowns help cut fossil fuel emissions around the globe, but a year later, scientists say pollution is already back to pre-pandemic levels. The UN now calling for urgent action. Ian Lee has more.
The clear skies of the pandemic are a thing of the past. The United Nations says the future looks smoggy, with climate change moving faster than predicted.
We have reached the tipping point on the need for climate action.
A UN report card finds none of the world's major economies is making the grade when it comes to cutting greenhouse gas emissions, even though nearly 200 nations pledged to make big changes under the Paris Climate Accords in 2015.
This report shows just how far off course we are.
To get on track, companies around the world are looking at green solutions. They're producing more solar and wind power.
Those are penetrating into energy systems quite fast around the world at the moment. They're falling in cost extremely rapidly.
In the United States and Europe, scientists are experimenting with fusion to pave the way for carbon-free power. Iceland unveiled the world's largest plant that sucks carbon dioxide from the air and stores it underground. Scientists warn if more solutions don't come quickly, we can expect more extreme weather, like droughts and fires, deadly heat waves, and devastating hurricanes. Ian Lee, CBS News.
Speaking of climate change, something you'll want to watch the socials for tomorrow is President Biden. He's going to be talking with world leaders about climate change, so we'll look for an update on that for tomorrow's This Is Now. All right, let's talk about some fun stuff because this is really cool in the art world. A Dutch museum unveiled a previously unknown piece of art by Vincent van Gogh. Yeah, that's right. Check it out right here. You can see the drawing. It's called Worn Out. And you can see an old man sits in a chair with his head in his hands. It looks like a sketch, really. It closely resembles a more famous Van Gogh painting called Old Man, but the perspective's a little different. Discoveries of his work are pretty rare. You know, he died back in 1890, so very hard to come by. This drawing is owned by a private collector. I know a lot of people got to know Van Gogh over the past months by visiting that Van Gogh experience here.
Oh, yeah.
And I know you got to see it. It looked very cool.
It was beautiful. It was very interactive. And if you've been to the Van Gogh Museum in Amsterdam, like we have,
I have.
It's a very different way to kind of experience his artwork because it moves.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Some entertainment news, right?
Yeah, so a major fall has forced Elton John to reschedule his tour. Now, the 74-year-old revealed on Twitter that he fell awkwardly on a hard surface at the end of his summer break and has been in considerable pain ever since. He had been undergoing physical treatment with a specialist, but says he has to have hip surgery. So the 2021 dates of his farewell Yellow Brick Road tour in Europe and the UK have been pushed out to 2023. Despite the change to his schedule, he still hopes to perform at the Global Citizen Live charity event in Paris on September 25th.
Best wishes there to
Yeah.
Elton. Yeah.
And memorabilia from Sylvester Stallone's personal life and career are going up for auction. Check it out. These boxing gloves and a story development book are from the Rocky franchise. Now, the notebooks are estimated to go for $40,000 to $60,000 each, and the gloves between $10,000 and $20,000. Now, many of the sale items are from Stallone's personal collection of costumes, movie props, and more. The auction will take place December 5th online in Beverly Hills.
Stallone's selling a lot of stuff. I think I read a report somewhere recently that he's selling one of his homes in Hawaii as well.
Oh.
I have never personally seen any of the Rocky movies in completion, but I know a lot of people out there are big fans, and I bet those will get snagged up right away.
I feel like a lot of celebrities are doing a lot of, they're either selling their stuff
Yeah,
or they're
that
doing
Janet auction. Remember that?
Or they're doing collabs that don't really go with their brand. I don't know if it's because maybe their work's not as busy because of the pandemic. They're looking for other avenues.
Pandemic boredom.
Yeah.
I guess. I
Yeah.
don't know. Stay-at-home boredom.
Exactly.
All right, so let's talk about some sports. Hawaii's own Carissa Moore has capped off an amazing
Oh,
year
yeah.
with another world championship. Who can say that?
I know.
She's got
Five
five
times.
I know.
Sounds good.
Let's play out some of her reaction right now. Guy Hoggy talked to her this morning.
Yeah, I kind of got off to a shaky start. I knew Tatiana was a force to be reckoned with. She is a very fierce competitor and very talented, and she has a really incredible team behind her. So I knew it was going to be a really tough battle. I had a few little bit of nerves and I felt like I had to sort through in that first one. And I came in after I lost the first match and I was like, oh my gosh, what just happened? Like now I'm behind and I got to fight my way back. And I think the hardest part for me was I only had 40 minutes to really like flip the switch. And it's easy to kind of get down on yourself after a loss. And I had like my negative self-talk just came back in an instant. I was kind of doubting myself. And I just, I'm very lucky. I have a lot of love around me. My husband was there, my coach, Mitch Ross, my dad, and they were all like, okay, you got this. It felt like a pit stop in one of the car races where someone was waxing my board, someone was giving me water. I got like a pep talk, and then I was right back out there. And I don't know. In that moment, I was just like, hey, this is it. I got to give it everything I have. There's no reason to be nervous. I have this opportunity, and I'm just gonna give it my all.
All right, Carissa, congrats to you.
I love her.
Me too, and it's crazy to think that she's even talking about it. She has those inner voices of doubt, and she has to overcome them still, even after all she's accomplished.
I know. She's so down to earth, so humble.
Yep. Loved watching her in the
yeah.
Olympics as well. You guys, that's going to do it for This Is Now. Again, continuing coverage coming up for the search for the missing girl in Waimanalo. That's coming up at 4, and we'll update you with any new information on your H&N digital platforms. You guys have a safe afternoon.